That's right. It is the Fighting Taters Show here on IdahoSports.com. Big day for Boise State. We made national headlines today. Boise State, obviously, if you've been sleeping under a rock all day today, on its way to the Pac-12. There you go.
How do we know it's official? Because this came right off of their website.
Yep.
Right off the website.
Yep. So Boise State on its way to the Pac-12 for the next about half hour or so. We're going to break down rumors flying around, what it could possibly mean, not only for Boise State, what it means for the Mountain West, what does it mean for the Pac-12, what are the ramifications that this has nationwide, because this is the latest domino to fall in the college athletic slew of dominoes that we've seen for the last several years. So I'm Lucas Gephardt. He is Ryan Luke. We are the Fighting Taters. I want to remind you that you can watch this show and any of the previous shows that we've done on IdahoSports.com. You can watch it on the YouTube channel, the IdahoSports.com Facebook page, or the IdahoSports.com X account. That's where we're live here tonight. You can also listen to this show, like we said, on Idaho Sports or wherever you get your podcasts. And we want this to be kind of an interactive show here tonight. So feel free to drop in a comment. If you drop in a comment, we can pop this up just like you see here on the screen, and we can talk about it. So we got a few people jumping on here live as we get this thing going. But Ryan, let's go ahead and kind of jump into this thing. Your first reaction, this was the first thing I saw when I woke up this morning, was them jumping over to the Pac-12. Your first reaction when you saw the news?
Well, I scratched my head. I was in Las Vegas. I was in Las Vegas for a conference, and I flew back this morning, and I saw, again, first thing that popped up on my phone after you take it off airplane mode, because don't sleep with it on.
Yeah.
And it came up and it said, the headline is that the Mountain West. So my initial take is, so what? Because the Mountain West has been the top of that group of five for years now. Yeah. And what does this do other than give you new opponents if you're Boise State? The thing that they're jockeying for at this position, to me, it's all about money, right? At the end of the day, they're looking for a better contract. So if the allure of the Pac-10, 12, 8, 6 at this point, we don't know what it's going to look like. If that does attract enough of a media contract, then this is an upgrade for Boise State. Yeah. Absolutely. If not, Washington State and Oregon State theoretically are going to be better opponents and maybe strengthen the conference, but you're still pulling a bunch of the same type of competition. So,
right.
It's a domino. It's a domino in all of it. It's another domino to fall.
It's a domino that is not going to be the final domino. This is the first in a series that's about to fall, because the Pac-12 basically, or the Pac-2, whatever we're calling it, I'm going to call it the Pac-12. They basically have, when they got raided and poached and everyone jumped to the Big 12 and the Big 10, they basically had 2 years to find 8 member schools. They have to get to 8 to stay a conference. So they need at least 2 more schools.
Yep.
If this is actually going to go through. So now the question is, who are those schools? And what does it mean for a potential media rights deal? So this is just the number one. This is the first thing to happen. If this is going to work, if this is going to go through, they have to get 2 more. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, who knows then? But, do these schools go back to that? That's a conversation for a totally different day. So here's how it affected Boise State. Obviously, scheduling probably not a whole lot different financially. Boise State is going to owe about $18 million in an exit fee. But here's the deal. The Pac-12 reports are out there that they have the cash stacked up to help these schools pay these exit fees. So each school that left, which we can pop that up on the screen now here as well if we can find it. So Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State. Those are the 4 schools that all jumped. Again, should know that at this point in the day. So each one of those schools is going to have to pay an $18 million exit fee to the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12. Plus, the Pac-12 owes the Mountain West $40 million in poaching fees. That's a lot of money. Reports are out there. Pac-12 has the money because when all these other schools left, they had poaching fees and all this stuff that came into them when Oregon, Washington, and then Colorado and Utah, Arizona, and all of them left. Plus, Pac-12 is still getting all this money. You get these units, right, from the NCAA tournament. There's only 2 schools to bring those units in. And even though UCLA is in the, Big Ten now, they get the units going to the Pac-12 because UCLA was a Pac-12 school when that was happening, right?
That happened, yeah.
So they have more money than people, I think, thought that they had. And there's reports out there that has said that.
Yeah, and so if we're going to dig a little deeper, and that's why it was so imperative and critical from the early on that the Pac-12 not fold, and that's why Washington State and Oregon State held on strongly. Now there was talk of a Pac-12 Mountain West merger early on, and it was the Pac-12 that kind of foo-fooed it, saying, "Hey, you know what? You can come over here, but we're not going to go over there because of all these financial ramifications. Because that coffer of money, if it dissolves." The Pac-12 dissolves as an entity. First of all, those units from the NCAA men's basketball tournament and women's to a much lesser extent, but the men's basketball tournament, those don't get paid out. And those are paid over time. There's a scheduled payout over those that it ends up getting paid. And then so the Mountain West said, "Hey, come be part of us." And then you saw what, and I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And then earlier, I guess it was earlier this week, when the Mountain West said, "Hey, we're not going to renew our scheduling with the Pac-12 at this point, Oregon State and Washington State. It's because of this." And I think that there was a lot of smoke behind that. And quite frankly, I think that they'd already told them. I think Boise State had already told them. Fresno State, I think these 4 teams had say, "Hey, listen, we're done." And all of a sudden, Mountain West says, "Well, we're going to stick it to you." And there's kind of a little jockeying going back and forth. But we talk about the financial element of it, and it is massive. So I don't think, as a taxpayer in Idaho, if you're a taxpayer in Colorado or the state of California, don't think that the $17 million is all going to come out of your pocket. I mean, Boise State runs actually in the black. Their football program runs in the black. They don't lose money. There are plenty of programs across the country that do. The Pac-12, with all this money that it has theoretically coming in, will absolutely help take care of any of those transfer fees. So at this point, the biggest question is why? Why are they doing it? Why is it happening?
Right. And the biggest question I had when I first saw this, and the first thing that stood out to me was no UNLV.
Yep.
Why? There's reports out there that Nevada is tied to UNLV, and if UNLV was going to go, Nevada had to go with it. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. Here's why. UNLV was in the Mountain West before Nevada was.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe things have changed now, but
so UNLV is in a really, really unique situation. And again, I literally just came from Vegas today, so I can show you my boarding pass. But UNLV is in a really unique situation. And if you've been again under a rock, they're absolutely dominating teams in the Mountain West right now. In fact, in terms of the power rankings, UNLV is on top. They're on top of Boise State. Because we don't know how good Oregon is, and we know that Boise State gave up a ton of points to Georgia Southern. Those two things we don't know. That's kind of keeps us from it. But UNLV has incredible coffers on NIL deals. They're able to start recruiting some of these kids and bring them in, and it's Vegas. If you're an 18 to 22-year-old male, it's Las Vegas, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Anyway, you look at it, good or bad, it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you're a head coach, I mean, it's probably your worst nightmare at the same time, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So UNLV is in a unique situation in that they finally now have a way to get funding, because historically, coming from the state of Nevada and the education department, not hyper funded. Not when you bring in NIL and it can be private funded, all of a sudden there's a lot of vested interest to make Las Vegas an amazing sports town. You talk about the Raiders are there. The
maybe getting
Athletics, the Athletics are going. I just saw a report that they're playing in Sacramento regardless next year. So the point is that there's a lot of vested interest, and don't think that some of that's not going to UNLV. Which to me, back to your point, how interesting is it The UNLV does not get the invite because they kind of fit the profile. Pacific time zone.
It's perfect. UNLV is the biggest TV market in the Mountain West. Las Vegas is the biggest TV market in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
Just is. So I don't know. That raised some eyebrows for me. And obviously they got to get to 2 more. My thought, UNLV isn't in the Pac-12 yet. I think they'll be one of those teams that gets in. If these reports out there aren't true that they're tied to Nevada somehow politically, I don't know how. I don't live in. I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs of that because that's way over my head. But from articles and stuff that I've seen, is that can be worked out, and I think that might be why they weren't invited today. Doesn't mean that they won't be invited down the line, or maybe they were invited and said, "We can't come right now. We're trying to work this out."
What if the Mountain West just continues to be absorbed by the Pac-12 and says, we have 12 teams. And what if the whole thing just comes over? So the question is what good does it do? Do you get more money because you're called the Pac-12 or 14 at that point? Or is it just the same thing? My gut feeling is they're going to shake it up in the Pac-12. They've got to bring on some quality marquee teams. They've got to bring in some big names with some big markets because it doesn't do you any good. If you're the Pac-12, it doesn't do you any good to just bring the whole Mountain West over. It doesn't.
Yep.
I mean, look, Denver with Colorado State, I get that. That's a big market. I get that.
Fresno's a big market too. That one makes sense.
Absolutely. It's a great market. Yeah. San Diego State. I mean, for their basketball program alone, and football historically they've been good. Baseball.
San Diego State basketball just played for a national championship.
Right.
So there you go.
And then you look at Boise State, which has been the top group of 5 school in terms of winning percentage and accomplishments forever. So that one's a no-brainer. And every headline says Boise State leads it. There are some hiccups because if the Pac-12 is going to field other sports, Boise State doesn't have a baseball team. They don't have some of the other sports that are sponsored by that. So you're going to kind of see the Pac-12 maybe shift a little bit. But, you got to bring in a splash. There's got to be a big name with some more power behind it. And if not, it's just a new conference with the same old people.
It's the Mountain West with the Pac-12 name, essentially, is what it is, which could happen. And one of the things that could very well happen and might be going on behind the scenes is if the Mountain West does dissolve, which so the Mountain West right now has 8 members left. So the Mountain West can survive as is with those 8 members and just move forward with those 8 members. So that's another option that they could do. That might be what they do in the short term. But let's say the American comes calling, and I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. Utah State, Wyoming, New Mexico, let's say they go to the American. Now the Mountain West is really in trouble. Or here's one for you. Air Force to the American to join the other 2 military academies in the American.
Huge. Yep.
Is that something that they want? But as it stands right now, 75% or 9 of the 12 remaining universities basically have to vote to dissolve the Mountain West if the Mountain West is to dissolve. That's the schools voting on that, not the conference, which I think is an important thing to note there. And if that happens, these schools don't owe these exit fees anymore because there's no conference anymore. So that's another piece of it.
Well, I mean, there's so much here because let's talk dominoes now. Okay. Yeah. So we said maybe the Mountain West. Let's assume it survives. Okay. I think it does. I think it survives because you're going to have the Utah States, the San Jose States, the Wyomings, New Mexico's. They don't fit anywhere else. They don't fit. I think the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, which is your next best, they flip 1-1 in terms of the Mountain West and who's the top in college football. I don't think they poach that deep, that far west, but who knows? Stanford and Cal are in the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference. Now, that's an interesting one too. What if Stanford and Cal are sick of traveling? What if they turn around and say, you know what? Okay, fine. There's a Pac-12 again. We're coming back. Those could be your marquee names. Those could be your big quality names now coming back to the Pac-12.
Yeah, and remember, the Stanford and Cal aren't getting the full share of their pie in the ACC and won't be for a long time. That's an important piece to remember because when I first thought of that too, I'm like, there's no way. Why would they come back? Maybe if this new media rights deal that the Pac-12 can secure is more lucrative than what these two schools are getting in the ACC. Remember, less than the share of what all the other schools are getting. Maybe they come back, and then there's your two marquee schools. And now we're really getting into the weeds.
Well, so, I mean, take it a step further. What does that do to the ACC? And there are already discussions that Florida State's gone, Clemson's gone.
They want to go. The only reason they're still there is because of a lawsuit. Like,
correct.
They got one foot out the door already.
So this could topple everything. I mean, if we're being completely honest. Now, say everything stays as is. What do you do? Well, historically, some of the expansion conferences, what have they done? They pulled up FCS schools, Jacksonville State, Sam Houston State, a couple other ones that have come up, Stephen F. Austin. Those are the schools that are coming up. Now, all of a sudden, you start saying, well, Montana State, powerhouse. Idaho.
Montana,
in fact, I just read an article that talked about how Idaho dropped down. They're the first team to drop down from FBS in the last 50 years to drop down. So they could bounce back up. They've been there before. And Montana State. So those three schools, you could backfill with that. And then you could talk about doing something else. And then you plunder the Big Sky. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot of potential dominoes.
That could happen. I'll throw a couple other FCSs out there for you that have been rumored. North Dakota State, South Dakota State.
Huge. Yep.
So those are all possibilities. I think if that's going to happen, it's going to be down the road. I think that's like we're on domino 1. I think that's like domino 9. I think the Mountain West is going to try to go explore every other possibility before they do that. I think they're going to try to go to Texas. I think they're going to try to get, UTEP, UTSA, Rice, schools like that who may or may not even want to jump over. And so the Mountain West, kind of what just happened to the Pac-12, may just sit on this for a year, and then then they go to Montana State, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. Who knows?
Well, and then rumors, and we have a graphic of this. Some of the rumors of the early targets for the remaining, or some of the other positions come from the AAC, are Memphis and UTSA, and to a much lesser degree, Tulane and North Texas. Now, I can see Memphis. They've historically been good. UTSA, very, very much a new school, especially on the football scene, but performed very well year in and year out. Their head coach turned down some big stuff to stay there. Tulane coming off a couple of big seasons, and North Texas, that's the Dallas Metro. Makes total sense to keep that in your to have that demographic for you. So that is those are two potentials, the Memphis and the UTSA, that theoretically could head over to the Pac-12.
Right, and when we were just talking about schools that just went to the ACC, throw another one out for you, SMU, that just jumped over as well. I mean, dream scenario for this new look Pac-12, you probably get Cal, Stanford, SMU, Memphis. You had 4 or 5 more. Maybe you need one more. UNLV throw it in that one too. Dream scenario. If everything goes perfectly for them, those schools, you move forward with that. That's a pretty good conference if you can line that up.
If you can line it up. A little bit of travel coming from the West Coast, right? A little bit of travel. Let's dive a little deeper now on Boise State and the ramifications for Boise State. I personally am not thrilled about this move. The only thing that's going to make sense is, and this is what probably has happened scenario-wise, is that in the background, the Pac-12, commissioner of the Pac-12's already started negotiating. Hey, if we get this, would we get this? And so if those media rights are better and it's going to give them, quote unquote, more exposure, do whatever it's going to do, then fine. I'm okay with it. But I truly don't know what this does for Boise State. I don't know how much it does.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think as it stands now, it's elevating their brand a little bit. I know the Pac-12 is not what it used to be, but that is a better brand, even though that's for the most part the same schools. You're kind of cutting out the bottom half of the Mountain West, so you're kind of cutting out the San Jose States of the world, and schools like
The
that.
Colorado States. I mean, sorry, they're.
I mean, they haven't been. I've been watching Colorado State since I was this big, but I hear you there. But they do bring the Denver market, like you said.
Denver market, yeah.
So and they have been okay in basketball the last few years. But I think it just depends on what else happens, because I could see a scenario to where the Pac-12 can't find two more teams, and then what happens then? Do they go back to the Mountain West and you're kind of back to square one? Or is there a media rights deal already lined up? And if there's a media rights deal already lined up that's going to get them more money for their entire athletic department, then I think it's a good move. If they get more money down the line, I mean, let's say rumors. I've seen stuff that rumors are it's let's say 10 million pays for itself fairly decent, fairly quickly, and you don't even have to pay the exit fee. So why not?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. To your point, is it more prestigious? Absolutely. I think if you had some old school or you had some traditionalists, they'll look at it and be like, "Oh, I mean, we saw the graphic online. Boise State's going to the Pac-12. That's huge, right?" But it's almost like you kind of got to know the history to understand what it means. And so some purists and some traditionalists are going to look at that and say, "That's great. That's great for Boise State." Now, a while ago, and you would probably know this because if you're a Colorado State fan, but when the Mountain West was formed some 25 years ago, I want to say,
Mm-hmm.
it was essentially the same thing. They came out of the old WAC and they said, "Hey, we want to control our own destiny with a
Top
better
half of the
media
WAC
deal."
formed the Mountain West.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it feels a lot like that. It really does. It feels like a lot like that. Now, you can even get even more. I don't think this happens, but this is throwing it out there. What if you get BYU, Utah, Arizona, Arizona State coming back saying, "Oh, thank
Yeah.
goodness, we don't have to go to West Virginia. We don't have to make that trip all over, and all of a sudden everything stays west." Dream scenario for the Pac-12.
Yes. I don't think that happens short term. Could it
No.
happen long term? Absolutely. Because let's say that ACC loses Clemson and Florida State, and maybe a couple other schools. Where are
Duke and
they going to
North
go?
Carolina. Yeah.
Sure. But where are they going to go? Big 12. And let's say they take 4 or 5 schools from the Big 12. Let's say the two Arizonas don't get invited. BYU gets left out. Big
Utah.
12.
Yeah.
Sure. And maybe there's an opportunity there down the line. And then maybe all these things, just these domino effects. It's just not done. This is not the last domino, like we said, to fall in this. There's going to be a lot more that happens, and I think it's going to happen pretty quickly too. I think we're going to learn a lot more pretty quick.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we'll probably see another announcement. Obviously, dust has to settle a little bit on that.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see some poaching really quick. And right now it's triage and damage control for the Mountain West. You lose your marquee names out of that other than UNLV. Right now, you got to remember, UNLV's been absolutely terrible at football for as long as we can remember.
Yeah,
Historically,
sure.
they're terrible at football. Are they having a good couple of years? Yes. Is it a renaissance? Maybe. Maybe this is a reboot of UNLV football, and this is what they look like. But taking that out, all of a sudden, Boise State's gone. When they came in, it was huge.
Yeah.
Fresno State has been a powerhouse in there. They played really, really well. And San Diego State is probably one of the biggest markets in the Mountain West. I think, if not the biggest, because it is San Diego. No, I guess, yeah. So
moral of Vegas, but yeah.
But moral of the story is you lose your top 3 marquee names, and Mountain West has to play triage at this point. I mean, look, if you're Utah State, if you're New Mexico, you sit at San Jose State, some of these other schools, you're going, what are we doing? Like, where's the plan?
Bad day to be an Aggie fan at Utah State. Yeah,
bad
day. Any of those other schools. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, because you got left out of this move. It's where do you go from here? Now, looking down the line and how does this impact Idaho, which we talked a little bit about before. What would you rather do if you're an FCS school? Because Idaho has seen both sides of this now. They've seen the FCS side, they've seen the FBS side. Remember, they chose to be an FCS school. Does that say something? Do they, if they get an invite, do they want to go back?
So the FCS is in a unique position in the sense, obviously, they don't have the same number of scholarships. We talked about in the top tier teams of the FCS, their ones match up really well with the ones. It's when you get to the twos and the threes that it doesn't match up as well. But what we're seeing is there's a lot less NIL influence. Now, transfer portal, absolutely. That's different than NIL. But you're seeing really good football being played. I've seen more FCS teams knocking off Idaho, knocked off Wyoming. A couple other schools have done it. And it's almost a purist version of college football right now. I think you got to go back all the way maybe to NAIA or something like that. But it's more of a purist version. And I think they're pretty comfortable. I think they like it because the schools don't spend as much money. They, typically the stadiums and we'll call it the markets aren't nearly as big. I mean, the ones that you could argue be like Portland State would probably be big enough for a market. They have to compete with Oregon and Oregon State.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the Portland market.
Yeah.
Not Portland State, but
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
So I think they're probably pretty comfortable. Bozeman's not a big city. Missoula, not a big city. Moscow, not a big city. Pocatello, not a big city. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be worth it to them. If there's a media rights deal in place, like you said, to make enough money, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Money does a lot of talking, but here's kind of why I think it might not be that appealing for them. Because right now, college football and really college athletics is the SEC, the Big Ten, and everyone else is trying to play catch up. So do you want to be a part of that and constantly, trying to play catch up and trying to kind of keep up with the Joneses kind of thing? Or do you want to stay in the FCS where you're currently a big fish, currently nationally ranked, have a playoff where you can realistically right now win a national championship? Do you want that, or do you want to go back to having your best year be the Potato Bowl?
Yeah, a win in the Potato Bowl.
Right. I mean, that's kind of, and that would be like the marquee year. Or is it better for them to get a game here or there on ESPN2 and play Montana and have all these marquee games on a smaller stage, or get lost in the group of five or group of six, whatever you want to call it, just get lost in this sea of whatever is going to happen with them and get totally left behind? Because the other thing we didn't even touch on is college football playoff. Right now, Oregon State and Washington State, the Pac-12 right now, does not have an automatic bid to the college football playoff. They have to be an at-large bid if they're going to make it. Currently, as it stands, which I don't think will be the case moving forward, the Mountain West has a path to the college football playoff and therefore has a path to win a national championship. They have to be the best non-power conference champion. Then they're in the playoff.
Yeah.
If that is no longer the case, is there an incentive even other than media rights deals for an FCS school to even make the jump up to FBS?
So there are a couple. I mean, money at the end of the day, money talks. Okay,
Sure.
Money talks. Any athletic program that they say, "Hey, come join the Mountain West," and you currently make $2 million a year, we're gonna give you 10. That could fund a lot of programs at a smaller school.
Especially at a big sky school. Sure.
Yeah, that could fund a lot of programs. That said, I don't want to take away from the fact that being very comfortable and good at what you do, winning games, just ask Idaho, feels really good to be a Vandal right now. It feels really good. And I'm not even a Vandal, and I'm cheering for him, and it does feel good because you're winning games and you're relevant. You're relevant across the board. So you're right. Do you want to sacrifice that? But honestly, at the end of the day, it's going to be money. If you can go from 2 million to 10 million, and you can now fund, all your women's sports are now funded as well. Like that says a lot. And quite frankly, if it is a public school, Montana State, Idaho, those schools, the Dakotas, it'd be tough when you're sitting there in session, right? Say their Congress is in session and they're saying, "Hey, sorry, we just turned it down because we liked winning football games. We turned down an additional 8 million." And they're going, "Wait, budget wise, you did what?"
Yeah. Imagine that headline if the State Board of Education turns something like that down, right?
Right.
Yeah, I definitely hear you there. So a lot to unpack here. Kind of wrapping things up here, but what is your prediction right now as it stands here on what the Pac-12 does now? They need 2 more teams. Who are those 2 teams? Is it more?
So my gut feeling was the 2 AAC teams that were mentioned. That said, those are such geographic outliers. And at that point, you're kind of just scraping it together. I think Memphis could be an option, but I think Memphis, if they hang tight, will get a better option, a better opportunity. I do, than a rebooted Pac-12. So I don't think it's going to be Memphis. That's what they're talking about. That's the target. If I'm school president there, I probably hang tight. I do, because like you said, plenty of realignment coming. I mean, I think we're not far away from the day of having the SEC and the Big Ten being its own entity and them running away with that. And then you're going to have these opportunities to form these other conferences. So I do think UNLV is a very strong target and an opportunity. I can't think of anybody out of the Mountain West. Who else besides them? You could, I mean, this is a distant argument, Utah State, but their athletic department's in shambles right now after kind of what's going on there. I'll be honest, Lucas, I don't have a prediction. I really don't.
It's tough.
They've got to have something planned right now and have had conversations. I don't know what those are. I'm not privy to it. I seriously, as I was walking through the airport today, I was half tempted to just give the Pac-12 a call and say, "Hey, this affects us, right? Tell us what you're thinking."
We're going to talk about it tonight.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on, That's funny. Yeah, I think UNLV figures it out. I think they find a way into the Pac-12. Selfishly, I want Memphis in the Pac-12 just because I think that'd be fun to watch Memphis Pac-12. I also really do foresee I think a scenario where the Mountain West ceases to exist is not out of the realm of possibility.
Me too.
And every school that was in the Mountain West just comes over to the Pac-12. I don't think that's out of the question. I think that could happen, and let's say Hawaii goes independent, Air Force to the American.
Well, and the other one too is Cal and Stanford. I could realistically, first of all, you got to remember they almost shut down the Cal baseball program years ago because the funding wasn't there, right? Because California is perpetually in debt. And Jeff Kent, former second baseman for the Giants, played at Cal. He fundraised enough money to put him on. So I think funding is huge. I think that media rights deal, it costs. And I think that's huge. Stanford has money because it's Stanford. But I think it gets old to travel to the East Coast every stinking time. So I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility either.
Yeah, especially if the ACC can't figure out how to be if they lose some of their top teams, and because I think they went and got SMU, Cal, Stanford out of survival.
Knee jerk.
Yep. Yeah, right. It's the Big Ten's going to the West Coast. We need to go to the West Coast, and they just got what was left, which was Cal and Stanford.
And we haven't said it, but I would say outside of the SEC and the Big Ten, of course, but I'd say these other conferences, the Big 12 is probably set up for the most success as is, right? Stability-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at BYU, Utah, Colorado, all in that mountain area, and then look, it is an hour, I think it's 49 minutes to fly from Salt Lake to Phoenix. or maybe an hour. It's quick.
Yeah,
it's not
quick.
that far.
Yeah.
So the point is they're set up with this kind of this West, and the Big 12 is going to be good. And basketball, they're going to be the best conference in the country. So I think they're stable. I don't know if it's worth it to get poached. And I think that they'll be able to rework a media deal and or, whatever it takes. But I'm telling you, that Mountain West, it's on shaky ground right now as we speak.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So if you're the Mountain West and their commissioner, who is you're on the phone right now? Who are you on the phone with?
Right now, I'm talking to other schools. Yep. I'm talking to a couple of presidents and I'm saying, hey, I want you. Memphis, I want you. Whoever else, I want you. Whoever else it is, like, I want you. We want you.
You need schools.
You need schools. Now, to your point, they can exist with 8, but 8 doesn't cut it. It just doesn't cut it. Conference USA was trying to do 8, and they went and dipped in and got some FCS schools. But if I'm on the phone right now, quite frankly, I'm on the phone. You know what? My number one phone call to the Pac-12. What are you doing? What are we doing? This is ridiculous. That's what you're doing.
On a Zoom call tomorrow morning. Let's talk it out.
Hey, are you serious?
Yeah, right.
And what does it look like? Okay, cool. You want to keep your media? Cool. You want to keep your money, your units? Cool. What would this look like for us to come together?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think the Mountain West right now, because have you seen the statement coming out from the Mountain West? They were like, we've seen the media reports that these schools are leaving. Like, these schools are gone. They're going. But
Boise State's website.
Sure, yeah, and Pac-12, right? Even on their website. But I think the Mountain West, at least for the time being, is going to do everything they can to keep these schools and prevent the Pac-12 from getting 2 more schools. That's why I was like, they need schools. So if the Pac-12 wants them, Mountain West better be going after them too, because if Pac-12 gets 2 more schools, Mountain West is toast.
Done. Yeah, but you got to remember too, is there a media rights deal in place with the Pac-12? Have they preemptively done anything? If they have, and it's bigger than what the Mountain West can offer, it's a foregone conclusion. If they haven't, if their negotiations are based on who they get, hey, let us find some teams, then we'll come back and talk to you. I think there's a chance that they stay that it stays intact.
Yeah, and kind of going back to a point I made earlier of the exit fees, and Pac-12 has got money to pay these exit fees, so they don't have infinite money. So maybe they didn't have enough money to pay the exit fee for every single Mountain West school, but they can pay it for 4. And so they took the 4 that they wanted and said, we'll pay your exit fee, just come over. It's no real, risk to you. If this doesn't work out, you can just go back to the Mountain West. Everything will be the way it is. Now, what if that is kind of the idea? And then if the Mountain West does end up dissolving, now everyone else in the Mountain West can come over without an exit fee.
Yeah. Destabilize Trojan horse.
Right.
Interesting.
So I think that could very well be happening behind the scenes.
Do you think there was a power struggle between the commissioners, the top of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West? Because it looked like that for a while. That was a foregone conclusion. It was going to merge. They had the scheduling, agreement for the 2 schools, and then that got dissolved. It feels like a power struggle.
Yeah, I think that became apparent when they had the scheduling agreement for this year, but not next year.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it at the time, but you talked earlier where there's smoke, there's fire. That was the smoke.
Yep.
And no one saw the smoke. Now we're seeing the fire. Yeah, right.
And heaven knows here in Idaho, we've had enough fire. So,
yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and this is great because I can talk about this because I'm not a Boise State fan. I'm not an Idaho fan. I'm not an Idaho State fan. I'm a fan of Idaho, I'm from the state of Idaho, so I can comment on this. But quite frankly, I'm a little sad to see the Mountain West go, the stability that it offered at the next level. I mean, honestly, I could flip on a game on Saturday and it would probably be a pretty good football game. I mean, Bronco Mendenhall just went back to New Mexico. He's got to rebuild that program. UNLV's showing up. Fresno's a little down, but you can guarantee they're going to get some good recruiting and come back and play. Colorado State, whatever, we don't need to go there. But Boise State, picked to do really well. I have them losing one game this year. But if that all kind of goes to pot right now with the Mountain West and we just get a different version of it with the Pac-12, I don't know if it changes anything. It's just maybe a history, an asterisk by the name.
It's branding, and I mean, I'm with you as a guy that when I was in diapers, came up watching Mountain West football. Bradley Van Pelt back in the Colorado State days.
Dude, he smoked BYU. That guy was unbelievable. As a BYU fan, man, that guy, nemesis.
Right. So I mean, those are my memories of the Mountain West. I'm a Mountain West OG. I remember when Utah and BYU and we're in the Mountain West.
You bet. Yeah.
Before Boise State even came over. I remember when Boise State was the new kid on the block.
Yeah.
And the first time they came to Fort Collins, they just whooped us. It was 35-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Oh.
It was, he whooped us.
Well, and listen, Utah State only joined in 2013, right? Like they haven't even been around that long. Is it 2013? No, it's later.
Oh, gosh, I don't even
Fact check.
Yeah, right.
Trump debate.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean, but they haven't even been around that long. And they were dying to get in the Mountain West. My friends, the Aggie fans are like, oh my gosh, and they get in the Mountain West, and now it's looking like this. Like you said, tough day to be an Aggie. Absolute tough day.
Yeah, tough day to be any member in the Mountain West unless you were those four: Boise State, Fresno State, San Diego State. Missing one. Who am I missing?
Colorado State.
There you go.
Yeah.
Team so anyway, a lot more to come on this. If you're watching this live here, don't be afraid to hit that like button, leave a comment, share this. That's going to help our show kind of grow, and Brian and I can do.
You just went on mute. Lucas just went on mute. That's crazy. All right. Yeah, like, share, follow. We need all of those things just due to the fact that we're going to continue to try and grow this show, and we're going to try and get more and more and better interviews. Look, this is your local home. This is homegrown stuff here, right? This is IdahoSports.com and known for just the local stuff, and we're trying to grow the show. So like, share, and especially this situation like this Boise State moving on to the Pac-12, I think is a huge, huge, huge point of conversation for us. Are you back?
I think so. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You just kind of sound like you're listening. You're through your computer, but all good.
Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. So,
yeah.
That's going to do it for us today. We are the Fighting Taters. He is Ryan Luke. I am Lucas Gephardt, and we'll be back next week. We're doing these things every Thursday, so we will go ahead and see you next Thursday. So, Boise State to the Pac-12. We'll see what it brings on.
Let's go.
See you then.